So the next thing we are going to consider is what we call relative molecular mass, which is referred to as the RMM. What is the relative molecular mass? The relative molecular mass is summation of the relative atomic mass in a compound. Okay, what does that mean? Let's assume we have a compound A, B, and C. So this is element A, element B, element C. They all come together to form a compound. So for me to get the RMM, which is called the relative molecular mass of ABC, which is the compound, I will need to know the RAM of A plus the RAM of B plus the RAM of C before I can get the relative molecular mass. So addition of the RAM of A, B, and C, we get our relative molecular mass. Okay, so let's solve examples. Okay, solving the very first question, algebra 1. In algebra 1, we are asked to determine the molar mass, which is called the relative molecular mass, of calcium hydroxide, which is given as Ca into bracket O2, OH2. Recall they've given us hydrogen, oxygen, and calcium. For this case, the RAM of calcium hydroxide can be written as calcium is 40. Like I told you, you have to determine the relative atomic mass of calcium. Then for this case, oxygen here is 16, but we have 2. So that means 16 multiplied by 2. The next one is hydrogen. Hydrogen is there to be known as 1, so 1 times 2. So we have it as 40 plus 16 times 2 is 32. Then 1 times 2 is 2. So summing this up, that's 40 plus 34, and that gives us 74 grams per mole. The relative atomic mass of calcium hydroxide is 74 grams per mole. Let's have another one. Okay, now other one, which is algebra 2, we have to determine the molar mass of iron 3 sulfate. In this case, Fe2 in bracket SO4, then we have 3. Where oxygen is known to be 16, sulfur is also, okay, I think this is an error. Sulfur is not supposed to be 16. Sulfur should be 32, while iron should be 56. So in this case, our iron is 56. When we look at it carefully, it has 2 atoms. For me to get the relative molecular mass of iron, I will say 56 multiplied by 2, then plus, in this case, this is sulfur. We have 3 atoms of sulfur. So I will say 3 times the number of sulfur, which is the relative atomic mass, is 32, plus, in this case, I have oxygen. We have 4 atoms of oxygen, and also we have 3 atoms. So that's oxygen, which is 16, we multiply by 4, and also multiply it by 3. Okay, when we multiply 56 by 2, we are going to have it as 112, plus when we multiply 3 by 32, we're going to have it as 96, plus then when we multiply 16 by 4 and by 3, we're going to have 192. So summing this up, 192 plus 112 plus 96 will give you 400. So the relative atomic mass of iron 3 sulfate is 400 grams per mole. Okay, algebra 3. In algebra 3, we are given to determine the molar mass. Like I said, molar mass means the relative molecular mass of copper 2 sulfate 5 water. So this is the chemical formula. Copper 2 penta copper 2 sulfate then pentahydrate, which is H2O. So in this case, we take them one after the other. Recall, oxygen is 16, sulfur is 32, copper is given as 63.5. So in this case, I only have one atom of copper, that's 63.5 plus sulfur is 32 plus oxygen is 16 multiplied by 4 dot. Now the dot here does not mean multiplication, rather the dot here means a bigger plus. So here we have 5, put in bracket. Hydrogen is 1, so 1 times your 2 plus oxygen is 16, closing the bracket. Okay, when we move on, we are going to have this to be adding up this together. That's 63.5 plus 32 plus 16 times 4. That will give you 159.5 plus we have a 5. Then here will give you 1 times your 2 is 2, 2 plus 16, and that's 18. So we're not done yet. 159.5 plus 5 times 18, I will have it as 90. So adding 90 with 159.5 is going to turn to 249.5. So we have this to be 249.5 gram per mole. So that is the relative atomic mass of copper 2 sulfate pentahydrate.